So looking back at therapeutic riding, you've been with Ride-On for 14 years. So what kind of experience have you seen as far as it being successful, and what have you seen that maybe wasn't as successful?
I've seen so many success stories at Ride-On. Let me just tell you a little bit about hippotherapy, which is basically therapy services on horseback. Our hippotherapy program is always with a physical therapist, a speech therapist, or an occupational therapist. It's a little bit different to therapeutic riding. So basically, you always have a therapist working with the client, and they're using the movement of the horse for specific medical improvements. And what they've found is that the horse's walk is very similar to a human's walk. So for little tiny kids that are having, major issues in their development, the horseback riding or the therapy on horseback can help huge amounts. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because I actually work directly one-on-one on Friday mornings with a physical therapist. I'm the horse handler, so I basically am responsible for the safety and the movement of the horse, and I work with our physical therapist, Ruth Stern. She comes out from the Child Development Center in Simi Valley every week, and we treat tiny, weeny little kids, ages 2 around, and we're done with them by the time they're 3, and it's basically early intervention. Now, the stories there are just incredible, because what we're doing when we're working with the child and the movement from the horse is very, very powerful in the input and specifically the core. And strengthening their muscles in the mid area, which is going to be the grounds for everything else that they learn to do. Walking, right down to using their fingers, right down to their breathing, being able to control their core is very important. Now, that's where we see some huge, huge, huge differences. And I've seen kids that their parents have called the week after and said, "Wow, my kid just walked, took their first steps, and it's because of what you do. It's because of that movement that they're getting from the horse." I've also seen kids that come out to the ranch that we had a little boy that came out who'd had many, many different surgeries and couldn't move his mouth to chew. Was always fed through his stomach. Came out to Ride-On and progressively got more and more input and got more and more strength. And we saw him say his first words. He pointed at the pony and said, "Bath, bath." And we used to give Billy carrots, and we used to let him watch Billy eat the carrots. And eventually he took his first mouthful of a carrot, first bite. And the parent
imitating the horse.
Yeah, said
that's fantastic.
That all came from,
That's fantastic.
And with the early intervention, if you can identify that you've got a child with a special need and get right in there as soon as you can when they're very young, the benefits can be huge. And certainly with physical therapy on horseback, hippotherapy, we see that all the time.
Now, you mentioned that you let the kids watch the volunteers feed the horses. Do you ever let the kids groom them, or?
Absolutely, yes. It's one of the biggest parts of actually the experience and therapeutic riding. And in fact, we do. We never cancel our lessons. If it's too hot or too windy, then we can't ride because it's too uncomfortable for our volunteers, our riders, and our horses. But what we do is we never cancel lessons, and we have what's called ground management, where the kids actually learn to groom and to tack, which is the saddle and the bridle, how to actually get their horse ready. And we find that sometimes that's just as powerful as riding.
Wow, that is cool. So looking at the horses, how do they respond to someone with a disability? Are they specially trained, or do you look for a specific temperament, or what do you look for?
Absolutely. Our horses are very, very incredibly special horses. They're very well trained. We basically take donated horses most of the time, but as Candy was saying before, we have to make sure that we're aware of...
They're safe, yeah.
Absolutely. We take them on a 30-day trial, and that's barely enough to get to know them. And then basically they are just incredible. And you can watch them turned out, free time. They'll gallop, they'll kick, they'll bark, they'll play, and then you'll tack them up, you'll put them in the mounting ramp, and you can just watch their whole... just calm and quiet, waiting for that disabled kid to get on them, and they're incredible.
Wow. So they're never really annoyed with the kids, or?
If they are, they don't show it.
That's great.
Yeah, but some of them don't make it, and some of them don't like that job. So, and as soon as we recognize that they are maybe becoming a little bit sour, then we find them at another home.
So that actually brought me to the next question. What's the typical length of time that you usually keep a horse in service, so to speak?
We've had horses that have been still giving therapeutic riding lessons in their 30s. And we basically, as long as they're sound, which means, you know, they're taking, you know, not limping, taking healthy steps, and they're healthy in their own, you know, in themselves, and we can keep teaching.
Wow.
They go a long time.
They do.
Yeah.
So Ride-On deals with a lot of different disabilities. I think one of the most common, though, is autism, if I'm not correct. So how do the horses assist the kids that have autism?
For some reason, it's been found that children with autism have a very strong connection with animals. For what reason? I'm not a medical person, I can't tell you, but I know that it's true, and they absolutely do have an incredible bond with animals. And sometimes the problems with autism and not being able to communicate, you know, with another person, that barrier just breaks down, and they develop an incredibly strong bond with the horses that they ride.
And what about cerebral palsy? I know cerebral palsy, most kids that have it, they can't really walk too well. How does the horse help someone, and how long do it usually take?
Well, we can, certainly with cerebral palsy, there's some issues with the inside of your leg being very tense and very tight with your muscles. And that's, riding a horse is very helpful. Once they're on the horse, we get them on safely with a mounting ramp and volunteers to assist. But the warmth and the movement from the horse can help no end with, you know, just basically relaxing those muscles in the legs. And again, just developing that strength and in their posture and their core.
So looking at the learning disabilities, can horses help with this, like ADHD, and how could they help?
Again, absolutely. We find that the kids just manage to pay attention when they've got that third element, the horse, that they're in control of, that they're guiding, they're communicating with, they're partnering with, and basically it just helps them to pay attention. You know, we'll do two different things. We'll do a group lesson, which is an hour, and we'll also do private lessons, which are 30 minutes. So depending on the disability and depending on how much they can pay attention, then depends on where we, you know, where we put them and how long they ride for.
Now, horses typically are considered, they're very big, so they might be considered dangerous, and a lot of people might be rather afraid of them. How do you reassure a parent, and this is for you too, or anyone that might be fearful of their child's life or their life?
I think that's part of the bittersweetness, why the horses are one of the animals that are chosen, because it helps you to overcome so many other fears. I have a lot of clients, the main issue is the fear issue, just because of, like you said, the size and, you know, the weight of the animal. So it can be a helpful rather than a hindrance, as far as I think, you know, overcoming those issues.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yes, we do have parents that are quite fearful, because of course you're bringing a child with a disability into this environment with these huge animals. But, you know, once they've experienced it and watched the way that we operate, we're incredibly safe. Safety is our #1 main issue, main concern. We have obviously lots of volunteers that help, and the kids always ride a helmet. So yeah, once they've realized that we are very safety conscious, most parents are very comfortable with.
Now you've got a child in that situation, and then they're controlling a 1,200-pound horse because the horse wants to. Pound for pound, human is never going to make a horse do anything, which Sarah knows it doesn't want to. It has to want to, and that's the beauty of it. That's the interaction, you know? Those are the lessons that, part of the lessons, I can't speak for all, but part of the lessons that they gain from dealing with such a huge animal, you know?
Yeah.
Respect and partnership.
Exactly, yeah.
So when you have a parent that's afraid, has any of that anxiety ever shifted to the children? And have you?
Yes, and we ask the parents to walk away.
Oh. And just walk away, and the child is fine.
Yep. We tend to with the little ones, especially with the tiny kids that come to ride, they may have never worn a helmet, so sometimes that can be an issue. But you know, once they're over that, and once they're over, you know, the anxiety of leaving mom, it's normally within a week.